got a message in chat here. Excuse me, all sharks are giant puppies. Some are just more aggressive than others, just like doggos.
That's a fair point.
I can't
On the other
disagree.
side of that, I've never seen a shark on a couch aggressively protecting a boot before. So
Me neither. What kind of dogs would great white sharks be? Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome on into the Whale Talk podcast, episode number 7. Yes, 7. I had to double check from my notes for well, we're recording this on January the 1st, 2026, but it's technically for like stuff we're covering in like December last year. But yeah, so hi. Welcome to the Whale Talk podcast, the podcast that will only ever be half as interested in whale sharks as with whales, because they're only half whale, you know? I'm Karan, and joining me as ever is a man who lives in a place where the ordinary person on the street can probably tell you the minor differences between alligators and crocodiles just from experience alone. It's It's 4.
well, I'm here. It's the Florida man himself.
Our resident Floridian.
Yep. Though I will actually say I don't have any personal experience with crocodiles. The American crocodiles here in Florida are all down in the very southern part of the Florida Peninsula. So most of us don't have to deal with crocodiles, just them alligators.
Could you tell the difference between the two, though?
Oh yeah, I mean I know the difference. Like it's that's book knowledge. I know the difference between them, but I've never seen them in person, other than maybe at a zoo before.
Fair enough. Okay, so I've got some really fun whale facts this time. There was one where I was like, do I include this? And you didn't say no, so I didn't remove it. But yeah, if you put a blue whale on a bus, it is unlikely that the bus will be reaching the next stop on time. Canned laughter. I don't have it on the screen. So basically, a blue whale is a little bit too heavy for a bus to move. Yeah, I mean, it works better when you don't explain it. Okay, another whale fact. These are all technically correct. Whales have passed the point in evolution where they would feel the need to go on cruises.
Are you saying they don't need a vacation?
They go on vacations. They don't go on cruises, though.
I mean,
like, why would you go on a cruise ship?
Well, I mean, like, if they're moving from like Vancouver and they're going up the inside passage of British Columbia and up into Alaska and they go to Sitka, I mean, that's basically a cruise itinerary right there.
I guess could you say that bow riding is basically like taking a cruise?
Yeah.
So they have to use less effort.
I mean, they're catching a ride, yeah.
So what you're saying is this whale fact is not a fact.
Yeah, I think it's a debatable one. I think it's incomplete. More data is needed.
By the way, referring to the alligator and crocodile thing, we have someone in chat that's literally just said, like, why don't you just ask them? Have you ever tried to ask an alligator, are you an alligator or crocodile? They get kind of moody with that.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about that being brought up, because there is a joke that goes like that in bird watching about what's the difference between an American crow and a fish crow, because they're extremely similar. Fish crows are just a little bit smaller than American crows. The differences are very fine detail that you have to be up close or have a really good camera to see. So the joke is, how do you tell the difference? You ask them, "Are you an American crow?" And the fish crow will answer, because that's their call. Whereas a American crow's call is more like a caw, 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 like you would expect from a crow.
Oh my gosh. I also read something else from chat. It depends on if you see them later or in a while.
Oh,
Oh
that's a
my
good one.
gosh.
That's a good
That's
one, Pop.
that's painful. That's painful.
That's a good joke.
Okay, whilst we're on the topic of that joke, shall we go into something a little bit more factual?
Yeah.
Our third well fact of the month. So, as their name would suggest, bottlenose dolphins like their substances. Aside from being called bottlenose, they are also quite partial to the good old puff. That is to say, pufferfish toxins. The funny thing is, this is actually not even just kind of true. This is actually true. So bottlenose dolphins actually get high off pufferfish toxins.
Yep.
It's ironic that it's the pufferfish.
Yeah. Makes for a good joke.
And also imagine you call someone bottlenose. Like that's implying something there.
Yeah.
So shall we get into our favorite segment of every podcast?
No, some people's favorite.
Well, I mean, there might be like one person. I just closed down all my captures, so do bear with me. I have to bring everything back up so that I can see everything that's going on. And wow, that was a disaster. Okay, but so yeah, so we have our. I love how you started typing the marker before me there. Our 10-second content for those that like sharks more than whales. And unfortunately, shark fans, we had to actually kind of force this in because we didn't have anything naturally about sharks this month. So, did you know that nurse sharks don't actually nurse you back to health? That being said, a nurse shark has never been known to kill a person.
They're basically like giant puppies.
Yeah.
Like, because when you always see when like scuba divers go down on the reefs and there's nurse sharks. The nurse sharks will just come up to them, they can pet them and they can handle them, and they're just completely chill.
Oh yeah, but nurse sharks, they really really like their food though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say, you don't want to be around when a nurse shark needs to eat because it's not gonna eat you. But oh my gosh, if you're between it and the food, it is gonna be line for the food regardless of whether you're there or not. Like you are gonna have a nurse shark just completely go through you.
You won't be in the way for long.
Yeah, basically. So, shall we? Okay, we got a message in chat here. Excuse me, all sharks are giant puppies. Some are just more aggressive than others, just like doggos.
That's a fair point.
I can't disagree.
On the other side of that, I've never seen a shark on a couch aggressively protecting a boot before. So,
Me neither. What kind of dogs would great white sharks be?
Probably. I mean, German Shepherd. I mean, probably something like I mean, I don't want to say great white shark because but something a little bit smaller, but still a apex predator type.
What else is a canine that's like not a dog? That's like
Well,
really weird.
there is the spiny dogfish.
Yeah, but at that point, it's not really.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind of a shark.
Okay, we'll just go with this. As a dog, the great white shark is actually a polar bear.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that. A Malinois.
A
Although
Malinois would be a great white. Yeah.
this shark segment has gone on so long that I don't even think it can be a short anymore.
Yeah. Just cut out all the silences. It'll be fine.
Okay, so we're gonna get to news. Is there any news topic that we have on this list that you want to attack first?
I think we can just go top to bottom.
Okay, we got some long stuff to do. Okay, our first news article of the month is so a study was released with video evidence that kind of went a little bit viral of orcas and Pacific White Sided Dolphins hunting together. Now, this is specifically the northern Resident Orcas and the Pacific White Sided Dolphins over there. And what I find fascinating about this is that I always watch these. I always watch the northern residents on the webcam. Orca Lab hosts many webcams online that you can watch, and sometimes you'll see the Pacific White-Sided Dolphins like in amongst the orcas, and you think they're mobbing them. But this study comes out with something completely different. So this is a study on the close interactions that northern residents have with Pacific White-Sided Dolphins. And earlier on in 2025, we actually had a paper released about these two species as well, where the Pacific White-Sided Dolphins were observed being around the orcas a lot more than you'd think, and the thought behind that, like the theory, was that this was like an anti-predation method. This is a way to avoid being attacked by the big orcas, because the big orcas will actually avoid the resident orcas, because the resident orcas are they're way more vocal, and the big orcas require silence to actually hunt their prey. So typically residents and big orcas will avoid each other. So so if the big orcas hear the resident orcas, they'll steer clear. So the theory was that Pacific White-Sided Dolphins would hang around the resident orcas, which the resident orcas, they eat salmon, and because of this, they wouldn't be attacked by the big orcas. Now, what's changed this kind of theory is that in December of 2025, a paper was published by Fortune et al. And this covered an even closer form of this symbiotic relationship between the dolphins and the orcas, in that the dolphins and the orcas were observed with camera evidence of being hunting together for salmon. Now, we're talking about Chinook salmon. They are very big salmon. These are salmon that are too big for the dolphins to hunt themselves, but not too big for the orcas to hunt themselves, and also not too big for the orcas to prey share. So typically, an orca, when it hunts something, will prey share with everyone else that was involved in the hunt, and these salmon are big enough for them to prey share. And when they prey share, bits of the fish like come loose, and that's what the Pacific White-Sided Dolphins are eating. So the researchers in this used aerial drones and biologgers, along with sensors for inertia, acoustics, and video by cameras. And so it would drop it from the drone onto the orca with a suction cup. This would not harm the orca, and after a while it would come loose. So they actually captured a video of this, and it's a really cool video, because is a video taken basically from the orca's viewpoint, and you see the dolphins just swimming so close together to the orcas. And so basically, the theory is that the Pacific White Sided Dolphins have better capabilities of using echolocation to find these fish. So they might be better at finding the prey than the orcas are. But then again, they need the orcas to actually make the kill. So that's where the symbiosis comes in. And so the orcas will follow the dolphins as if they were guided, and they would actually be more quiet than usual to allow the Pacific White-sided dolphin to do their thing with echolocation, and the orcas may even be eavesdropping on those echolocations, on the echolocation clicks. They might be able to like hear the clicks from the dolphins rebound off the Chinook salmon. So this is I found this fascinating when I read about this. What do you think about this, Gio?
Yeah, I think it's really cool because like we have seen some other, you know, examples, and we've covered some other examples of, different species of whales and dolphins, kind of either, mingling together or, actively hunting, foraging, playing together. So, it's not that surprising, especially, how smart orcas are, and, obviously the Pacific white-sided dolphins as well are intelligent. So like it's not that surprising to me to, see that, this is going on and that, that they're, adapting, especially as we know that, in that area there's been a lot of challenges to the salmon populations and disruptions, in their patterns. Um, so it shouldn't be a surprise to see not only the orcas but also another species, adapting to those situations. And I think that's really, it's really cool to see that they can work together that way.
For me, the surprise here is how closely they work together. The fact that the orcas are basically piggybacking off the dolphins' echolocations. Because we
Yeah.
see in other ecosystems where like they're hunting things like herring and you get a bait ball, you've got like humpbacks like bubble netting, you've got orcas in there making the bait ball, you've got dolphins, you've got sharks and everything, and everyone's just having a feast on these herring. And all of these different predators are just working together to just keep this bait ball compact to make it easy for all of them to be able to hunt. But this is
Hmm.
two species that are seemingly deliberately actively collaborating towards the same goal. So that's what
Yep.
really fascinates me about this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think it's really cool to see, and like, and it's a more active cooperation than like say, remoras. Um, I can't think off the top of my head any other s- specific situations that are, kind of like that where, one
There,
species is leading another species to the kill. But like I feel like there has to be other examples of that.
I've got a few that involve people actually. Um, so I'm going to tell a story of. I don't know if anyone's heard of Old Tom, the orca named Old Tom.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so this was a male orca, and this was like way before we even realized that orcas live in a matriarchal society. So he was presumed the leader of the pod because like big male, and back then like people just assume like that's yes. So Zarf in chat has got spawn. So this pod of orcas that lived off one of the islands of Australia. Um, they lived alongside a whaling community. And so what these orcas would do, they would go out and find the whales. But for a pod of orcas, it's quite a lot of effort to hunt a whale. So what they would do is they would go into harbour. Once they found a whale, they would come into harbour and alert the whalers. And the whalers would see these orcas, and they know because they've hunted with these orcas before. They're like, okay, orcas come into the bay. That means they found something, and the orcas would then lead the whalers like towards a whale, and then the whalers would then kill the whale, and then they would actually they would tow the whale uh, in the water, allowing the orcas to just eat the tongue and lips from the whales, which are what the orcas were after. And in a way, it's kind of like orcas, they prey share within their societies, and this is interesting because it's kind of the same thing, where like the whalers were actually prey sharing with the orcas. Another example of collaborative hunting, also involving fishermen as well, is somewhere in South America, where I think it's Brazil, where the fishermen will go into like shallow water with nets, and the dolphins will basically corral the fish into like towards the fishermen, and the fishermen will throw their nets and catch all the fish. And then I think they'll give some of the fish to the dolphins. So that's also like another collaborative hunting. I think it happens quite a bit in the animal kingdom, but to the extent of this, this is very active. So shall we move on to some bottlenose dolphins, Gio?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want me to lead off with this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I will say a bit of a warning now. This paper that I read for this article was very advanced, even for my level. This is very, very science heavy, like jargon. So this was a paper by Moore et al., released in 2025 in December. And this is a paper detailing differentiations between different ecotypes of bottlenose dolphins. So the paper covers the division of ecotypes of bottlenose dolphins based on environmental and geographical factors. And so basically they were split into a coastal and an offshore ecotype. And I believe we have some examples a little bit later of other places where this kind of thing is the same. But we'll cover the article first. So, okay, if you're wondering what's this word that you just said, what is an ecotype? Now, I know a lot about orcas, so I'm going to use this as the best way to explain. So, an ecotype, I'm going to use Resident Orcas and Beaked Orcas as an example. So, Resident Orca is an ecotype. Beaked Orca is an ecotype. They inhabit the same area, the same geographical region. They do not ever interact. They don't even speak the same language. They never interact. They eat completely different things. There are physical differences between them. Yet they could interbreed to produce. And so the definition for a species is a group of individuals that naturally reproduce to produce fertile offspring. And so ecotypes can do that, but they don't naturally do this. And for cetaceans, this is kind of really difficult to explain because there has to be another factor in play. Usually, the difference between a species, subspecies, or an ecotype is a geographical barrier. if you look at the Galapagos Islands, you've got so many species. If you look at the Seychelles, you've got so many species. Look at Hawaii, you've got like so many species because there is a geographical barrier, which is the sea. You've even got like places where there's mountain ranges. That's also a geographical barrier. But here, this paper was talking about bottlenose dolphins in the Mediterranean and two different ecotypes that covered the same space. And the interesting thing about this is that they cover the same space. There's no geographical barrier. So how can there be two different ecotypes? So this study focused on certain other geographical factors, which are not so obvious. They're not mountain ranges. They're not like a piece of land between two areas. They were actually looking at haloclines and thermoclines. So a halocline is a variance in salinity within water, and a thermocline is a variance in temperature. So, perfect example of a halocline is when it is an estuary, basically, when a river meets the sea. And a thermocline is more difficult to find an example of, but this is where you have like cold water meeting warm water.
And for both of those, that boundary can also be like the boundary between two bottles or two bodies of water. As an example, like if you go down to go down to the Florida Keys and you go a little bit offshore, you get into the Gulf Current, and there's a very like stark divide between the lighter water and the darker water between the two, and fishing along that barrier is really really good because you have some things that will cross the barrier and you have some things that stay on either side, but for whatever reason it like creates a place that life likes to go to.
So, what causes the difference between the light and the dark water?
Generally, it's salinity, but I mean, it's also just general clarity, how much sediment's in the water. But it's just like you would think that the ocean is homogeneous across the world, or you might think that, but really, a lot of these bodies of water are actually very disconnected and don't get wide intermixing between the two, especially when the barrier is small. It's like you would also think about like the barrier between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean, at Gibraltar, right? That there's only so
Yeah.
much that the Atlantic and the Mediterranean can mix together. So you're just getting two different, ocean types. It's like the same, kind of the same reason of like you'll go to one ocean and like the water will look kind of greenish, and you go somewhere else and then like the Caribbean and you get bright blue, crystal clear waters.
So that actually brings on to like quite an interesting point about this study because this study actually studied multiple different parts of the Mediterranean and also studied the Azores. And they actually found that the two ecotypes, there was more genetic variance in some places than others between the two ecotypes. So, and they basically were studying the two ecotypes in the same geographical location, but they were then studying multiple geographical locations with the two ecotypes. So, really, this actually does like pose a question like how difficult is it really to study genetic drift uh, for a species that can travel long distances and is not geographically bound. And particularly when it comes to like orcas, we know a lot about their behavior and their culture and their acoustics to know that there are so many differences that it doesn't even surprise us that they don't interbreed. And I would imagine it's the same for bottlenose dolphins as well.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes down to like Okay, if you put yourself into the mindset of, a dolphin looking for a partner, who, are, you're going to judge their fitness, as a partner. And one of those things would be their, hunting skills and everything else. And if you're going and looking at, well, look at them doing all of that with them squids when they could just be over here in the shallows eating these fish, why would I,
Yeah,
you know, mate with you,
that makes
and so
sense.
like it could be as much as that of like that they don't view the other as being a suitable partner or a fit partner.
Okay, so I didn't see in this study whether acoustics were uh, suggested reason that these are different, but do you reckon acoustics could be that difference maker? Like they speak different languages? Because this is the case in Orca ecotype. Heck, not even just ecotypes, Orca populations. Like the northern and southern residents are the same ecotype, yet they speak different languages.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
So, okay, so to cover a little bit more about this article, because they did actually suggest, um, which you definitely touched upon earlier, that this article actually explains that the two ecotypes, offshore and coastal, could be as a result of different diets. And the fact that there's a halocline and thermocline means that the diets of these two ecotypes are very close together, which is why they're inhabiting the same kind of space. They
Hmm.
also observe that the teeth structure of the two ecotypes are different. So the teeth are more adapted for those that are going for squid, more adapted for squid. Those that are going for fish are more adapted for fish, and etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and we see the same kind of divide and differences between coastal nearshore and the offshore populations of bottlenose dolphins in the North Atlantic, and yeah, we definitely see that here in the Gulf Coast as well. Though here in the Gulf, it's a little more interesting than I think many other spaces because the the basically off from Florida into the Gulf of Mexico. It's basically like a giant plateau, and it
Yeah, it's like a
remains really
shelf.
shallow. Yeah, yeah. So it remains really shallow for a long way, and so around here, coastal and nearshore dolphins would actually range further offshore because they can go much further offshore and stay in their preferred shallower depths. Um, and so and I know in the Gulf that does make it a little more difficult for them to study the offshore dolphins because they're so much further offshore, and even in like
Mm.
a good like fast center console, that will hit 40 or 50 knots in good conditions, you're still going to be driving that boat, at least a couple hours, out to get to the depth that you're looking for, which is a lot of why the Sarasota Dolphin Research Project has been working on improved methods for tagging those offshore dolphins with satellite tags to be able to better understand their distribution and where they're inhabiting along the shelf.
So okay, so I was smiling. I was smiling all through that. Not so much because of what you were saying, but because it kind of okay. Just so everyone knows, we are going to be soon doing predictions for 2026. Well, and dolphin predictions, and one of my predictions is very, very much linked to this. Um, I'll cover it again later on when we get to. But I'm gonna say, so in the North Pacific, there are three different ecotypes of orca. There are the big orcas, which eat marine mammals. There are the salmon-eating ones, which are the residents. There's also one that's very, very like there's not much known about them because they live so far offshore. They're called the offshore orcas, and they're speculated to mostly be like feeding on sharks and things like that. It's funny because one of my predictions is actually that there'll be an offshore orca sighting in the Salish Sea in 2026.
That'd be pretty
And
cool.
that'd be pretty cool. But after what you just said, I'm like, this is a bit of a shot in the dark. This one,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too confident anymore. Yeah. So what I also find fascinating about this study is because orcas are the easy example of like different ecotypes, but this is all to do with like social reasons and like prey choice. Now this is also due to prey choice with bottlenose dolphins, but this is not really pushed by social choices. This is pushed by oceanographic features, such as like haloclines and thermoclines, is what this study is suggesting. So honestly, like there's a lot of explanation. There's a lot of potential explanations for this kind of stuff on like why these ecotypes will form, and it's we. I feel like we think we know quite a lot about why these ecotypes form. I feel like we don't know everything yet. So we're gonna move on to our next news article. So, should we do another whale fact here? Did you know that sperm whales use vowels in their communication? And not only do they use vowels, they use diphthongs. I don't know. I do. I do not know how to pronounce this word. I'm just going to say I'm going to butcher this word. So, this was a study by Beggars et al. And it was published actually in November. We're a little bit late covering this. And it suggests that sperm whales may be using equivalents to vowels and diphthongs. Now, what is a diphthong? It is where two vowels in the same syllable cause the sound to change from one vowel to the next. So, I'm going to get Geofits to read out 3 words here. And you're going to hear how like one vowel moves into the next.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can see the paper here, right? The
Yep,
ones are
yep.
okay.
I got
Okay,
it.
go ahead.
Coin, loud, side.
Again, slowly. First one.
Coin,
So
loud. Oh, yep. Coin. Yeah, because it's the
yeah,
it's the swooping transition.
yeah.
Coin, loud, side.
So this study suggests that sperm whales do this in their language, which is crazy complexity in language. So sperm whales, if you don't know much about sperm whales are known to communicate in what is referred to as codas. And a coda is a group of clicks. And these clicks are assumed to be culturally learned, as in the young sperm whales will learn them from their mother. And scientists have found through spectral analysis that sperm whale codas could actually include the equivalent to human vowels, and not only vowels, but also these diphthongs also. Someone in chat or like in the comments on YouTube, like explain how to pronounce this word. So the paper, it doesn't bring anything new in terms of like data collection, but it's basically a reanalyzing of previous data. And so the paper proposes that study on sperm whale coders has been very binary up until now. So it's basically like, is there a click here? There's a click here. There's a click here. The time between the clicks. Nothing is focused on the actual click itself, just the timing between clicks, like the structure of the sentence. So this study actually suggested that maybe we should be taking into account the characteristics of the click. So does the click change in tone? Does it change in frequency? Does it trail off? Does it like does it blend into the next one? And things like that. So and also to support this is the biology of the sperm whale. If you did not know, sperm whales do have the largest brains in the animal kingdom. And I can't find any actual evidence on this, is my own assumption, but they likely have the largest communicative organ in the animal kingdom as well, which is the melon. If you look at a sperm whale, like half of that big blocky head is the melon.
And the other half is the brain.
Oh yeah. So okay, have you got anything to say on this? Because
I mean, it's very interesting. And I think it's very easy to, certainly lean into things and try and apply, human grammar to things. So I always wonder a little bit about, this kind of characterization of linguistics in an animal. But it is really cool to see that there are at least, patterns, to find in, in their communications like that.
so I mean, I know what you say. It's like when we look for like life on Mars, for instance, I we always like convince ourselves to look for life as we know it.
The little
But
green men.
but life that developed on another planet, we don't have a frame of reference. We cannot assume that the rules are the same on Mars. If we find
Mhm.
life on another planet, there is very much a chance that it's life not as we know it. That is going to
Yeah.
be completely different than what we're expecting. And
So, an example to that from astrobiology, and we actually kind of, I think I was kind of going to cover this for an educate me quite a while ago when we talked about whale falls, because there
yeah,
was something that was,
oh yeah,
relevant there.
the whale falls are a perfect example of this, where like we've discovered stuff that we didn't know could even exist before.
Yeah, or and a lot of it was like stuff that we had only found existed in extreme environments, like hot vents, in the bottom of the ocean, or completely like anaerobic underground, water systems. Usually that's where it's been found.
Yeah,
But this theory is, it's called the purple earth theory, and essentially it's this idea that before plants, or green plants as we know it, we could have had plants that used a simpler process that would have resulted in them having purple leaves and stems instead of green. And it's possible that Earth was, purple before it was green, before we had the great, oxygen explosion and all of the plant life came out. So it's basically, in this theory, it's basically saying, hey, astronomers, and exobiologists, like, let's look for, planets that show up with a purple spectrum, because it's possible that they could be, this type of plant life that's going off of different processes that are different from what we understand it.
yeah. We also have to remember, like life is determined. It's not determined by biology. It's determined by our interpretation of biology, our own definitions of what is a life form. And but I also think it's important to remember that like it's it's not good to attribute too many human interpretations onto onto life, and particularly like coming back to Sperm, where I was like the communication with them. But sometimes we do actually have to put it in human terms just so that we can kind of try and compartmentalize it, try and understand it in a way that only we understand.
Well, and one of the things that makes humans, humans is like our ability for pattern recognition. And I think because of that, we try to apply that, pattern recognition in our understanding of things that we don't understand. And so we constantly try to frame it, reframe something into, terms that we can understand to better understand something.
Oh wait, I've just realized, are we Darmok?
Yep.
We're deep. Okay, we're completely derailing here. We're talking about Star Trek now. We are Darmok here, where we are putting everything into the context of like a metaphor of what we understand,
Mm-hmm.
and
Aquanagra. Yep.
so that's why we're calling it. I love that. I love that Boris Wolf got that reference as well.
Yep. Well, and even when like you were talking, like I was thinking about, I actually was thinking about Star Trek and like where one of the very quick differences that they show in like how how life could be different is look at human blood versus Vulcan blood.
Yeah, they have green blood, I think.
Yep, yeah, because instead of iron, instead of basically iron oxide to carry oxygen around, they're using like a copper oxide.
Interesting. I did not actually know that. I've learned a bit about Star Trek.
Yeah, well, think about what makes your blood red. It's the
Well,
iron
it's
in your
iron, yeah.
well, yeah.
That's interesting. I I love how we have just completely derailed chat with
Mhm.
the mention of Darmok.
That's what we do.
So okay, so we should explain. I should explain. Me and Gio are massive Trekkies. Hey, I just finished watching Deep Space Nine today for the second time. I have a newfound appreciation for it. But
It's
like,
my favorite series.
I think honestly, Darmok like in Star Trek is perfect a perfect example of how if the way we understand science might not actually be how we should interpret it, like we interpret it in such a way that's like unique to us, and honestly there's no other way to interpret it because we do not have another frame of reference. It's quite literally impossible for us to even conceive of it in a different form, but
And
we
I
have to
think
be
I
open
think
to that possibility.
yeah, I think one interesting way to to think about that too is what are all of our number systems?
Oh, that's
They're
a
all
good point.
they're all
The
base 10, right? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously we have binary for computer stuff, but natively we use base 10. Now there are some examples in our culture where we use base 3, base 4, base 6, thinking of music, in particular, but much of our math is all based around base 10. And I would suspect that's probably because we have 10 fingers and 10 toes. But think about a species that had 12 fingers and 12 toes, and maybe they based everything on base 12 or base 16 or something else and maybe that different perspective would actually lead you to a different understanding or a different path
it's
to understanding physics and science and everything else.
the whole like SETI thing of if we ever encounter aliens, our way to communicate to say that we intelligent life is to list off prime numbers, because like that's a mathematic fundamental,
Hmm.
but that's mathematics as we understand it.
Yeah.
imagine, like it's Seta. It's not Seti. Okay, I got it mixed up with the last.
No, it is. It's SETI. I think
Okay,
boys.
Seti.
I
Okay,
think that's just a mistype. It's
all right. But yeah, Im- imagine prime numbers. Also, imagine we're right. Imagine we're right about prime numbers, but they're wrong.
hmm Although, what if? I mean, it can also be like, what if they were in like base 3 and they just never figured out base 10?
I
Because
don't.
there could,
I
because like you could have a cognitive block.
I do wonder at that point, would they even be able to receive our communications?
You never know.
I mean,
Alright.
if the binars if the binars can find space travel, then okay, let's get off Star Trek for a second. Wow, I think that's the most derailed we have ever gotten, which is saying something.
Yeah, we're pretty good at that.
Human DNA is based on 4 components. Snap. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'm not touching that, but Boris Wolf in chat has a fantastic. I like it. Like a fantastic point here. Like, do we class human DNA? Do we class all DNA as having 4 components?
Doubt.
Definitely not. Definitely we don't. That is how life is on Earth, but on other planets, no.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know that DNA is a requirement for life? No, we do not.
How do we know that rocks aren't alive?
We don't. We just
Our
haven't perceived it yet.
even by our definition, it's okay. So maybe there are some things under our definition of life that a rock can't be a life form, but damn, is it
It might just
close?
be a matter of how. It might just be a matter of how far you subdivide it.
Yeah. So okay, we're gonna move on to the next news article. So we're gonna go a little bit more briefly after this article through some topics as well, because we've got quite a bit to cover still. So our next news article is about a brand new sea sanctuary in the Mediterranean that has opened near Italy. Now, I'm going to be mentioning Sao Paulo here. When I say Sao Paulo, I'm not talking about Brazil. This is a place on an Italian island. So okay, so Italy will have their first ever sea sanctuary designed to hold dolphins that are being in captivity, and they'll be able to be held in a more natural environment, away from crowds, and not having to perform. So this sanctuary is called the Sao Paulo Dolphin Refuge, and is located off Taranto Island, and is located 4 kilometers off the coast. So that makes it very much more difficult for the public to access. So the reason why this is necessary is that because captive-born dolphins have virtually no chance of surviving in the wild. So a full release is just not possible, and with the increased closures of marine parks, there's more dolphins that need a home that's better than captivity. They need to have a sea sanctuary, and we're seeing a lot of these pop up at the moment. In fact, I'm going to be covering something else related to sea sanctuaries very soon as well. So this sanctuary will be able to take dolphins as early as May 2026. And the sanctuary is said to be protected from ocean currents and winds. And That had to be specified because there were concerns because the pollution of the city's steelworks industry is kind of high, but the steelworks industry is operating at limited capacity at the moment. Um, they have said, okay, so this article does kind of come from the refuge, but they have said that it no longer poses a risk to animal safety. The Sea Sanctuary will have all the facilities needed to care for dolphins, including like medical pool and things like that, and it'll be located offshore, so it'll be in the open ocean as well. The capacity will legally be 17 dolphins. They can't have more than that, but the project owners do not want 17 dolphins. They want way less than that, because 17 would be compromising like the well-being of these dolphins. So I'm gonna open that up to if Gio has anything to say about that. If you don't, then just
Not really. I mean, that's
okay.
love to see them be able to take more, but we understand.
So I'm gonna go straight to news 5 before attacking news 4. So news 4 could actually be like a conversation topic. So our next news story is that the Marineland France orcas, which we talked about in a previous podcast, they will be going to the Whale Sanctuary project in Nova Scotia. So these two orcas have been stranded in Marineland, France, which closed at the start of 2025, and they have been in limbo. They've basically been alone. They do have like a team of trainers still looking after them. No public. Their tank is crumbling. There's algae all over the place. They're not in a good environment. But the French government has now formalized the decision to send them to the Whale Sanctuary project in Nova Scotia. And this means that they will be living in a natural sea pen. And Nova Scotia is more closer to what they're genetically used to, because they genetically they are Icelandic orcas. So it's close to what they would be used to than putting them in the Mediterranean. Now these are both captive-born orcas, so they can't be full release. But one can always hope they show incredible science. Now, unfortunately, the World Sanctuary Project cannot take the dolphins, and the Bottlenose Dolphins, I believe they are. And they will remain in Marineland until a facility is built within France. However, this facility is part of a zoo called Beauval. Me personally, I'm very skeptical on this because this zoo is kind of well known for, exploiting for money. So I do believe that the best place would potentially be the Italian Sea Sanctuary for these dolphins that we just spoke about. Our next news article, we've got some small news articles. I'll come back to news 4 in a bit. That's actually bigger than I kind of thought. So our next news article is that researchers in Timor-Leste, which is close to Australia, have called for regulation of the whale watching industry in that region. So yeah, we're covering stuff around the world every so often. Actually, no, we do this quite well, don't you think, Gio?
Yeah,
We do
yeah,
cover like global stuff a little bit more than
yeah, yeah. We try and scour around the internet and find anything from anywhere that looks interesting.
So there have been many close encounters between boats and whales in Timor-Leste, and actually there was a video of this that I saw. I will link the video in the comments, but I'll also link it in chat as well for those that are watching on Twitch that might want to see this video. So the video itself shows people in the water with the whales, which is kind of a big no-no. And it also shows a boat that's cutting across the front of two whales, which is also don't cut across them. Propeller strikes are propeller strikes are potentially lethal, but also it does disrupt them. Luckily, in some parts of the world, the whale watching industry is pretty well regulated. Especially in America, it's not just regulated but very respected by the tour operators as well, because they do have a care for the animals that they bring people out to see as well, which I love to see that. And when I'm looking for like a whale watching tour, like that's one of the big things I'm looking for. I don't want to see whale watching tours that'll go too close. I want to see whale watching tours that will respect the animals because we are guests in their environment.
Yeah, and thankfully, like around here, most of the, or actually, I think all of the uh, tour operators, they follow the local um marine research guidelines.
Yeah, we we have to remember, like we as a species have to remember that we're not the only species on this planet. That we have to share this world with all the other animals out here. Like it's like you would be considerate like towards a neighbor, but I'd hope you'd be considerate towards a neighbor.
Hmm.
So if you're considerate towards like your next door neighbor, why are you not considerate like towards like the squirrels that are in the tree at the back of your garden, for instance?
Hmm.
No, that's always been my view. Like be considerate to everyone, really. So that is my personal view, I should say. Um, next small news article, which I'm not really even going to go much into, is that there is a new documentary series, mini series about Keiko, the whale from Free Willy, that is going to be co-produced by Sky, and I believe that's going to enter production in 2026. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay, so we're going to cover news article 4 because so this is kind of a big thing globally as well. So a new deadly virus has been discovered within whales that's been detected by drone usage. Now, these drones have been collecting droplets from the blows of humpback whales, and these droplets basically they form a biopsy, which can be like they basically get blown into a petri dish, and then these petri dishes get analyzed by scientists. And what they have discovered is that there's actually a deadly virus that it's what's the I don't know the word. Zoonotic is when it transfers between animals and people, but this transfers between species, but not necessarily to people. But this transfers
Hmm.
between cetacean species, and it's been circulating in the Arctic Circle, and it's called cetacean morbillivirus. Nailed it, pronunciation. And so, from these samples, scientists can see the health of the animal, and they found this virus, and they think that this virus may be linked to an increase of strandings worldwide. This year has been really kind of bad for strandings and also entanglements as well. But entanglements, I think, is a different matter entirely. But there's been a lot of strandings, like all over the place.
But
Uh,
it is interesting, with this to see them using the drones.
interestingly, I actually have a prediction for 2026 regarding drones.
Hmm. Well, like, and I think this is one of the things that we specifically, had talked about when we had our discussion about drones was that ability to collect droplets from blows.
Okay, okay, this feels like the time to actually just do predictions. Actually,
Sure, go for
we
it.
do have one more thing to cover after this, which is kind of like a double thing. Is we'll cover lesser known species and educate me after. The two are definitely linked. Because lesser known species leads into the educate me stuff. So, okay. So this is one of the more lighthearted stuff we've ever done on the podcast. So, I would just say the two predictions that I've already said before, and then I'll reveal the other three later. So my first prediction I've already mentioned is that we will see offshore orcas in the Salish Sea at some point in 2026. Now, this has to be confirmed as being offshore orcas. If it's an unknown ecotype, that doesn't count. And then, okay, I'll go with my next one. My next one is that at least 50% of the research articles that we cover, and I'm not gonna turn this into our favor. I'm not gonna handpick just the stuff that applies to this prediction. But yeah, my prediction is that at least 50% of all the research papers that we cover in 2026 on the podcast will involve drone usage. So I don't think this is an outlandish prediction, honestly. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the number is closer to 75% than 50%. What do you reckon, Gio?
I mean, I guess it really comes down to like how much of the research we look at is in the field versus lab.
Oh, yeah, actually, that's a point. It's also geographic based as well because there's some geographic locations in the world where they won't have such ready access to drones. Drones are expensive, and having drone pilots is also kind of expensive as well.
Yep. Though, as we also talked about in our drone thing, drone technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and it is becoming more accessible. And like, I hate to say it, but there's current events in Europe have led to a lot of those innovations and steps forward in efficiency over the last few years, and that's going to continue to trickle into the consumer market. So like, while it may still be prohibitively expensive for some research projects and their budget, it's going to become more and more and more accessible as the years go by, because the efficiency in production is just going to get better and better.
Yeah. So I've gone and linked in chat a link to a video where we actually talked about drone usage in cetacean research last month. Those are regular listeners of the podcast. You may have already heard this. This was part of the previous podcast. Okay, I'm interested to hear one of your predictions.
I kind of want to save all of mine for after you're done with yours.
Oh gosh. Okay. Wait. Okay. You're not ready. Okay, I get you. I understand. You're not ready. It's
Something
just
like that.
frantically writing down like what can I pick? What can I pick? Okay,
Well, and
so
make sure we don't overlap either.
okay, so My next prediction is that we will see at least 4 different sea sanctuaries worldwide gain their residents in 2026.
I'm
And
hopeful for that one.
this is kind of a little bit of a reach because delays happen.
Mhm.
So here's my prediction. Here's my prediction for like at least 2. I think there's one of them is obviously going to be Nova Scotia, the Wild Century project. That's going to be one. The other one is the one in Italy that we covered this month. I think we're gonna have some kind of solution posed for the belugas in Marineland, Canada, and I reckon the 4th one is going to be a sea sanctuary that we don't know about yet.
Alrighty.
Towards the end of the year, possibly. So that's my guess. Okay, I've got 2 more predictions. So the next prediction is actually following off from last month, where we covered the ginkgo-toothed beaked whale. I think we are going to. This is a bit of a stretch. This one, I think we're going to see our very first sighting of a species in 2026. Now, had I made this prediction for 2025, I would have got this because of the ginkgo-toothed beaked whale. But
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we will get another one in 2026, and I'm thinking if it is most likely going to be some form of beaked whale. But if there's a recategorization of something as a if something gets declared a different species from something else, can I count that?
Mm,
If, for instance,
no.
ah,
No, I don't think that counts. I think what we're talking about here, especially if we're using like the ginkgo toothed whale as kind of our prototype for this, is we are looking for uh, a species unknown to to science, or either unknown to science or only known through strandings, through
yeah.
through corpses, or
So
fossils, not through living.
so we're actually going to cover a lot about what you just talked about in a bit, because our educate me is actually about like how do we learn about a species that we've never seen before, because our lesser known species this month is actually a species that has been seen 4 times, or roughly 4 times. So my last prediction is actually to do with a marine park. Um, I think that the marine park, Marino Mundo in Argentina, will close its doors permanently. Just writing this down. So the reason for this is that so this park in Argentina was the last place in South America to hold a captive orca. That orca passed away in December of this year. There was also another orca in SeaWorld that passed away. Um, the circumstances of this orca in South America is suspicious, and this park has been known for having financial issues lately. So my prediction is that this park will close this year, and that one I'm probably as confident as I am with the drone usage one. So
Yeah, I like the drone usage one. Even more so if we subdivided to saying, field study.
yeah, I could have come up
Um,
with with more realistic prediction, but like the drone study one and Marina Mundo, I think are the most likely for me to land.
Mhm.
And yeah,
All right. So you want to get to my predictions?
oh yeah, I want to see what you've got. Yeah.
All right. So as usual, I procrastinated, but you know how it goes. But I was probably always going to be humorous anyways. So here we go. All right. So our first one, Kervone will spot an orca from shore.
No, no. If I do, that'd be amazing. I have only seen cetaceans from shore. Okay, twice. Okay, actually twice. Um, I've seen them once in Yuki when I was working at the aquarium there.
Mhm.
And they sent me out to go collect crabs and shrimp for the octopus, and then took me an hour and a half to come back. And they were like, "Why? What took you so long?" I'm like, "Sorry, I was busy watching the Bottlenose Dolphins in the sea."
Well, you just
And
got to say the dolphins kept stealing your crabs.
well, no, I just said like I was watching the Dolphins, and you know their response. They were furious, and they weren't furious because I spent so long like looking for the dolphins. They were furious because I didn't tell them that there were dolphins in the sea. They were furious because I kept it to myself. Oh, that was funny. The only other time I've seen cetaceans from shore was actually maybe where I might see orcas from the shore.
Yep.
Limekiln Lighthouse, I saw harbor porpoises.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean I've seen bottlenose dolphins from shore.
Yeah.
That's about it.
It's always not when you're looking for them, it's always when you're least expecting it.
Yeah. Well, it was like
Always.
you'll remember. I think I sent you the video a couple months ago on just a random Saturday afternoon. I had gone out and there's this nice little park that has a little pier
Yeah, I
going out
remember
into the little flats. And so I was just taking this picture of this nice, it's a mangrove tree that's kind of out from the beach a bit. And it was a breezy day, so there was a ton of sailboats out on the
that.
water.
It's just a
And
dolphin in the water.
yeah, it wasn't until like probably my 10th time watching it that like I just wasn't, I guess I just wasn't paying attention at the right second, but there's just like way back in the background, the top right, there's just dolphin that surfaces, takes a breath, and it's gone. Like, oh, there's a dolphin.
I love that. It's
Hmm.
I okay. I'm gonna predict exactly when I will see an orca from shore. I'll be at the lighthouse. I will have been there like all day, and then we'll get to the point where we actually record the live part of that podcast for that month, and it will be whilst I'm on a video call with you, and you might be streaming. I don't know, but like I'll be on a video call with you, and
Yeah.
that'll be when I just glance and I see an orca in the distance. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that right now.
Hmm. Are you ready for my next one?
Go ahead.
All right, this one is actually hoping for a repeat of history. Kervone will have a boating trip extended by the actions of a whale or dolphin.
Are we? Uh, I see how it is. I see how these predictions are going. A lot of these predictions will be based on June and July, I think.
Yeah, probably.
You know, I would
Uh,
love for my first prediction to happen during June and July. I'm gonna
yeah,
be
that would be
honest.
great.
That'd be
Hmm.
hilarious.
Yeah, especially if it was on your camera.
Oh yeah, that'd be like
All right. Mm-hmm.
I I send it. I send the footage into like Orca Bathing Institute. Like email me like, hey Monica, are these offshore orcas?
Mm-hmm. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Kervone will see a whale or dolphin calf.
Okay, that's kind of likely.
And I did that one because this past year I did see a dolphin calf, which was pretty amazing.
I saw a whale calf last year.
Nice. Yeah, in 2025.
In 2024. Stop that. Stop that. It's the 1st of January right now. I actually have. Hang on. Let me just take my calendar off the wall for a second. I actually do have a photo of one in the calendar. My own calendar,
nice.
by the way. By the way, this is still on sale if you're a little bit late. Let me see. Do I actually have calf in this? Oh no, actually, I saw loads of calves. Actually, wait, no way. It's October. It is October, isn't it? It's I definitely know there isn't a calf diet. Okay, now hang on. So, okay, so we got September. We got September. I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this on the actual screen. So yeah, so we've got a calf there. That was part of the T36s, and then we have October. This was also a calf. This was part of the T109A2s, I think. So yeah. Okay. Next prediction.
All right, fourth one. Cravone will have a new whale and dolphin lifer.
What? Okay, what do we mean by that?
Lifer being so lifer is at least it's a term I know from birding. So a lifer being a species you've never seen before and you see it. So like if you said, "Oh, I had a new lifer today," that would mean you saw a species you'd never seen before.
Oh god. Oh, okay. What do you think that species is going to be?
I think it will be
Extra point.
If
okay, I'm gonna say there's 3 possibilities.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you have any trips that are planned like in the Mediterranean or in the Atlantic on your side?
No, just in North America.
Okay, that's your only.
There are some. There's one that's more likely than the rest. Which
I like Boris's answer actually. A shark.
You can add that to predict the prediction. If it's actually a shark.
Or a shark. There we go.
Imagine.
I don't know what other whales are up there that you haven't seen to be able to.
The most likely candidate is a humpback whale.
And but what are the other two?
There are also Dow's porpoise, Pacific White Sided Dolphins. There is a very small chance of a fin whale or a grey whale. If I see a fin whale, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I will take that.
I'll go with a Pacific White Sided Dolphin because I just think that would be really cool for you to see.
Okay, that's for the bonus point. If I see a new whale, it'll be a humpback, I think.
Yeah. Well, and also, but then do I get credit if you see a humpback and a Pacific White Sided Dolphin?
I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. Okay, so you get 2 points if I see a humpback and a Pacific White Sided. You get 1 point per new whale, dolphin, or shark species I see.
All right, I like that.
If I get 1 point per sea sanctuary that gains its residence in 2026.
I'm good with that because especially because of the challenges that are there, I'm perfectly good with that. That's a good.
I'm
that's
happy
a good
I at least get 1 point.
And I would, and honestly, and you know what? With the first sighting of a species, you can have a +1 for that for each new species.
Okay. I should have considered this before picking. Okay, you've got one more. You've got one more.
Okay, last one. This is the one that's definitely not going to happen, but Cravone will be swallowed by a whale and change his name to Noavone.
So the less likely part about that is actually the changing the name.
Yep, it is.
I'm just straight up saying that's not happening. I'll tell you what, you get half a point if I'm swallowed by a whale.
Listen, I win if you get swallowed by a whale. It doesn't matter. Because the only way this is happening.
okay.
This is how I could envision this happening. Cravone decides to be adventurous, decides that he is going to go on the ocean kayaking trip. He goes out there, humpback whale, doesn't know he's there, comes up underneath him, swallows him. If that happens, I win. Because you also go viral.
So I'm actually gonna. I need to put some stipulations in this. Okay, so your prediction is that I get swallowed by a whale.
Yeah, so you have to be in stomach.
I have to be in stomach. Okay.
Yeah, you got to make it past the esophagus at least.
So if I just end up in the mouth, that's what, half a point?
Yeah, half a point.
But also
no.
only a quarter of a point because the Noavone.
Oh, fine. But if you actually get swallowed, I win.
It's not even physically possible.
Humpback whale might.
The size of their throat is like the size of a grapefruit. You know, if I end up getting eaten by a whale, like, I'm just gonna give it to you. I'm just gonna give you the win.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm asking for.
I mean, like, I don't care about winning the predictions anymore. Like, I fulfilled a goal. I fulfilled life goals. Okay, so we're gonna get to lesser known species and educate me in a bit. But I'm gonna actually allow us to take a 12-minute break right now because I'm gonna play a pre-recorded segment, which is Orcawatch. Which actually I need to make sure that I edit out for YouTube because Orcawatch on YouTube is now going to be like its own separate thing. So, enjoy. 10 years ago, if you were to tell me that I'm running a podcast that talks about whales and dolphins and keeps track of orca sightings in the Salish Sea, I would have said that I would expect December to be a pretty slow month, and I would struggle to fill it. This December was not the case because it felt like we had less big sightings, but that might also be because I'm more concentrating on certain individuals and certain families. So it might be why it seems like it's down for me. So let's get into Orcawatch. So our Orca of the month this month is actually T65A5 Indy. And so anyone that's big within like the Orca community might have heard of this guy. So Indy was born in 2014 and has 4 siblings. He is a big Orca and originally was called Elsie. One of the few times where an orca has actually been renamed. So he was renamed to Indy when he dispersed from his pod at the extremely young age for a male orca, the extremely young age of 5 years old. So dispersal means when a male or female orca will split away from their maternal pod. This doesn't happen that often for males. It's somewhat rare, but definitely not unheard of. There are definitely lone males. There's also a pair of males, T60D and T60E, for instance. It's much more common with females. after they have their first calf. Indy has been able to hunt harbor porpoises on his own, and he's just to put it in perspective. He is 11 years old now. He is not even a fully grown male, but he dispersed from his pod, and he's even able to hunt harbor porpoises, which is kind of crazy. His mother is A65 Artemis, and she is actually kind of infamous for being able to moonwalk. That is when she's able to surface and swim basically backwards. So Indy is actually frequently seen traveling on his own or with many, many different other pods. He is very well networked. He's a bit of a social butterfly, basically. He does prefer the company of younger males, and he gets up to quite weird stuff. Well, he seems to be he's he's a little bit off the rails. So he's been seen harassing humpbacks, and sometimes is seen playing with crab pots. Now, Orca Behavior Institute has a very cool article on these weird behaviors that he does, which I will link in the description. And so he has actually been entangled at times as well due to playing with crab pots, but always manages to self-rescue himself. That is to say, he manages to get free before responders come and help free him. And he has been known to sometimes show up with scratches and marks that are not consistent with injuries that will be obtained through his social antics. So, and everyone's kind of puzzled on where those marks come from. So, he's our Orca of the Month for January, A65A5 Indy. Also, definitely an Orca I want to see at some point. Hopefully this year to come. He was last seen on the 13th of December, according to my sources. So, as in regards to our adopted Orca, L90 Balena, I don't have a confirmed sighting of her for this month. Because I don't have the full IDs of one particular sighting. So we're gonna talk about her with the L pod here. So the Southern residents have been pretty active this month in December, particularly K pod. So first of all, we'll talk about L pod. L pod were heard on the hydrophones on the 16th of December. So they were heard with K and J pod all together. So they're heard on the 16th of December. And then on the 19th of December, they were actually spied way up north in British Columbia. So they've been kind of quite far out. So they were spotted, but I didn't get any IDs, so I don't know if Balena was with them. Because L-Pod tend to split up a little bit sometimes as well. As for J-Pod, the last time J and K-Pod were witnessed was actually on the 29th of December. They were heard over the hydrophone, going on for hours. So J-Pod were spotted kind of early in the month. They were a bit patchy this month in terms of spotting, but they were seen rather regularly. I think anyone that follows the Southern residents is glad to at least like get a month where they're pretty present, because this 2025, I'm recording this on the 1st of January 2026, so 2025 was a kind of rough year for Southern resident sightings. It only really picked up around, like, let's say September, towards the end of the year. But it was very patchy before that. Um, actually, the so where they hang out, it seems like this is the case because they were actually spotted in early July and then again in August by the Center for Wild Research when they go out to do their survey. And if they're not in, say, the sea, then they need to actually go and find the orcas. And they found them on both times, several weeks apart, all three pods on multiple days, uh, over on the west side of Vancouver Island. So quite not too far out, but maybe they're finding stuff to eat there, and if they're finding somewhere to eat, if they're adapting, yes, they are seen less, but rather be seen less than be seen declining, you know. So J-pod was spotted throughout December, and K-pod was seen kind of all through the month. So they were also last heard 29th. They were last seen the 22nd, I believe. I've got in my notes. And actually, we're gonna skip to the births and deaths section here, which I don't actually have a death to report this month, fortunately. But there is a death. There is a birth, a southern resident birth. So on the 10th of December, there was a tiny little orca calf spotted with K-pod by the Orca Conservancy. They spotted the calf first. Now, I don't know if there's an official thing on the gender of this calf. I know there were some underside shots, but it was very low quality and very ambiguous. As low quality as in it had to be enhanced quite a bit to actually see. And also the mother is suspected to be K36 Yoda, but that's not confirmed. And so this new calf is called K47. There's a bit of a weird naming discrepancy because K46 doesn't actually exist anymore. Well, K46. So basically, K46 originally was quite an older orca, and so this is when they misnamed particular orcas, and they thought that K46 was part of K-pod, but actually was a part of another pod. So then they changed it, but then they okay, well, we can't name something else K46. That it's a little bit weird. It doesn't make sense, you know. I Okay, so let's go on to the big orcas. So the big orcas they were kind of present. There was a lot of pods that I don't know and don't know about. But there are quite a few sightings of bigs. But this month, the families that I track. So the families that I track on this are the T65Bs, T36Bs, T99s, T99B, T137s, T60D, T60E, and yeah. So I didn't see many of those. The T36Bs were spotted on the 6th of December. T60D and T60E were both spotted on the 24th of December. And the month was kind of a little bit slow for bigs. The main sightings were really T46s and T46Bs at the start, and then there were actually a fair few families throughout the rest of the month. So, that is it for we. Ow, wow. Okay, we managed 12 minutes on a month that I thought would be a slow month. So, thank you for watching Orcawatch. Back to the studio. Okay, so we're back from Orcawatch. We're gonna marker. You back, you back, Gio? Okay, I need to actually unmute Discord. Okay, there we are. Okay,
There we go.
so we are going to move on to our lesser known species, and this was one that you picked.
Yeah, I've been kind of liking this, that like I go and find something that I think is interesting and then give it to you and then you run. We've made a good little system here.
Yeah, especially when this can actually lead into an educate me topic as well. That honestly, an educate me topic that I didn't even have to do any research on, because it's like just it's stuff that I think we can just explain just off the top of our heads. So we're talking about the Shepard's beaked whale here. And we're getting quite a few beaked whales at the moment. Beaked whales, the issue with beaked whales for having with lesser known species, which actually kind of maybe is the point of lesser known species, to have a species that no one really knows much about because they don't get too much airtime, and beaked whales don't really get that much airtime. Mostly because there's not much known about them now. The ginkgo toothed whale got quite a bit of airtime recently because it was discovered. So the Shepherd's beaked whale. So I actually had to. So I look for information on these species on the Whale and Dolphin Conservation website, but because of how little was actually known about this species, I actually had to look up a paper about this species. So this paper was by Donnelly et al., 2018. And so the Shepherd's beaked whale, they are a species of beaked whale, obviously, part of the Xiphidae group. Xiphidae is one of the families of toothed whales, Dontaceti. So toothed whales are separate from baleen whales. Mysticeti are baleen whales. And so the toothed whales include oceanic dolphins, river dolphins, narwhals, belugas. That's like one family in of itself. I think I mentioned oceanic dolphins. Also includes things like sperm whales. But one of the other groups is the toothed whales. The beaked whales. And the beaked whales are kind of a large group of very little known. They're a group where there's not much known about them, basically. So, with beaked whales, while you're calling them whales and you see a picture of them, you may think that they are actually whales. And similar to baleen whales, things like minke whales, but they're really not. They are more closely related to dolphins, porpoises, and river dolphins than they are to baleen whales. So the Shepherd's beaked whale has been spotted roughly 22 times at sea. I love how I say roughly and then a very precise number. But roughly 22 times at sea. Not a lot is known about them. Most of what we know about this species is from strandings. Unfortunately, strandings where they pass away. The range of this species is suggested to be deep offshore waters in the Southern Ocean. They have been seen around the bottom of South America, Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. And their prey is mostly fish and crustaceans, which is somewhat rare for beaked whales because most beaked whales will eat squid. They are large. They are large beaked whales, one of the largest, and the males grow to about 7 meters. They have a very tiny dorsal fin, quite far down the body, and they have a lighter patch above the flipper, and have like a lighter patch on the face as well. So these beaked whales are the only species of beaked whale to actually have a fully functional set of teeth in both jaws, and this is most likely due to them being one of the rare species of beaked whales to actually eat fish and crustaceans rather than squid. Because you don't need tough teeth to eat a squid. It's very kind of squishy and chewy.
More so, you just need to be able to grab onto them and hold onto them.
Yeah.
It's need to be spiky.
So the males of this species even have small little tusks as well. And when they surface, they have quite a large blow for a beaked whale. So uh, and maybe one of the easiest beaked whales to see when you're surveying the water. When you're surveying the water, you're on a boat and you've got your binoculars. They're probably one of the easiest to see, just based on the tall blow. Now, the threat to them is not too well known because there's not too much known about them. And from strandings, we can speculate that their biggest threats are from noise, such as naval sonar and seismic activity. But there's also speculated to be plastic pollution in play as like a danger to them as well. Um, Have I? Is there anything, Geo, that you know about the species that I'm not?
No, I did not do any research at all. I wanted to
Oh,
be amazed
education,
by your research skills. Yeah, I wanted to be educated.
educational. Well, most of this information comes from WDC and that paper that I mentioned. So this actually brings us on to educate me, and so our topic for educate me today, and this is the last topic we're covering today in the podcast, is how do we learn about a species we have never seen alive? So I'm gonna ask Gio, do you have any of your own insights on this?
Actually, one of the first things that came to mind was when we talked about the rice whale and how it wasn't it while it was uh, a known species that had been seen alive before, it had never been cataloged as a species yet because we didn't have a complete skeleton.
It was
Then when
presumed to be a
mm,
subspecies of bright whale.
Yeah. And so when one washed up in the Everglades, they were able to take the body. And of course, from that, you could get a lot of different information, some of which you've listed out in our notes, but they'll take the body and they bury it so that all of the soft tissue and everything will decompose and it will just leave behind the bones, and then they can put transport the skeleton to a lab or research facility, be able to catalog everything, put it all together, and describe the species. And you can certainly learn a lot from that, as well as like carbon dating. There's the like otolith layers to determine the age of the whale. You may be able to determine male and female from the skeleton as well. So there's certainly a number of things just from the skeleton that you could pull out, even if it's, and also if it's a juvenile or mature as well.
The issue of skeletons is actually like to work out like whether it's a male or female or juvenile is kind of difficult if you don't have multiple skeletons.
Hmm.
And like there have been times like and we're going to be touching a little bit on paleontology here because this is kind of like that same kind of area where scientists might actually make a mistake and assume that a juvenile is a different species when it's actually just a juvenile of another species that they've already catalogued.
Yeah.
But with the as you mentioned, the rice whale, they actually had the opposite of this, where they had the skeleton of it, and because they had the skeleton of this, and they had skeletons of rice whales, they could see that there was actually a fundamental difference between a rice whale and a bridge whale. That ended up being the concrete proof that they needed to actually categorize the rice whale as a brand new species, and also currently right now the most endangered species of baleen whale. So there, from a stranding on a beach, typically these kinds of animals you're not going to find them alive. They're going to be deceased by the time you find them stranded, and there is so much that you can learn about like an animal based on its carcass as well. Like evolutionary biology is a massive field for a reason, and you apply a lot of this stuff to things like strandings and also like autopsies uh, of whales. And so I've kind of got some bullet points here which I'm going to cover. But I'm mostly going to first talk about the external anatomy. So this is, for example, we're going to be looking at things like the flippers, the flukes, the dorsal fin. So if it's got a smaller dorsal fin, you have to wonder like why does it have a smaller dorsal fin? Um, like could this be relative to like depths? Could this be like currents? Like if it's in the Arctic Circle and it's got like no dorsal fin, like the bowhead whale, you have to assume okay, maybe this is actually traveling under the ice most of the time. But then you also look at the flippers. Does it have big flippers? Does it need to be maneuverable or not? It's got small flippers. It doesn't really need to be maneuverable. And then like the size of the flukes as well. Like. But then uh, you can also look at like the skin because like a sperm whale. Picture a sperm whale. It looks very very wrinkly. It looks very like crumpled up,
Mhm.
you know. And so why would that be? That's because it kind of just needs like that. It needs those extra wrinkles because it goes into like the deep sea,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
because of the pressure that's
yeah,
applied
it
to it.
needs
Yeah.
to deal with the pressure on its body. But then, like, if you got something that doesn't really have that, like, and you can probably the biggest giveaway when it comes to whales and dolphins is does it have teeth or does it have baleen plates? Because your baleen plates are like that's a completely different matter. Like it's
Mhm.
a Mississippi, it's completely different than anything else. Like um but I think you see that early because typically baleen whales will have pleats on their throat, except for a select few species like grey whales, for instance.
Mhm.
And but then even the teeth can tell you a lot about an animal. Um, the teeth gives you an indication on what something hunts. And when we're talking
Mhm.
about the shepherd's beaked whale and the fact it's got like a full set of functional teeth in both jaws, whereas other beaked whales do not, and we know other beaked whales feed on squid, you have to assume, okay, the shepherd's beaked whale most likely doesn't feed on squid. It feeds on something more substantial.
Mhm.
Then you've also got stomach contents, and honestly, stomach contents are going to give you big information on what it eats. So you can use that in combination with the teeth because, like, based on what it eats, like the teeth can also be different based on how it hunts as well. Like, is it a scavenger? is it a hunter? Like the teeth will be different. They typically,
And going to back to skeleton as well, you can even analyze like the wear on the teeth.
yeah, yeah. That's the other thing. Because like if you see a lot of wear, let's take an orca for instance. Let's say you've got an unknown ecotype of orca that has beached and passed away, and like and then you like investigate and you find this, like you look at the skeleton and you find the teeth. The teeth are extremely worn. You can make the assumption at that point that this orca might be something that hunts sharks, because typically an orca with worn teeth will be hunting sharks, because sharks have a very abrasive outer layer of they're not skin. It's they're called dermal denticles, but they're basically scales that are like sandpaper in one direction, but like smooth as anything in the other direction.
Hmm.
You can also get DNA from these
Hmm.
strandings, and the other thing is also like you can figure out why it's stranded to some extent, but you can also see like injuries that it might have that may not have been caused by the stranding, and the
Yep.
injuries can also tell you something about its lifestyle, like whether, I mean, not just like what it hunts or anything like that, but also the scars might tell you something about its social structure. If it's got like teeth marks, like if it's got long tooth rakes, there's a good chance you can actually assume that that is actually caused by another of its own species. Like look at Rhesus dolphins, for instance.
And then, and alternatively to that, you can also see what preys on it or tries to prey on it.
If you find these small little injuries, like round injuries, they're cookie cutter shark
Oh,
bites.
yep. Yeah, good old cookie cutter sharks.
If you find cookie cutter shark bites, there's a good chance that what you're looking at, feeds in the deep sea. Because cookie cutter sharks are mostly found in the deep sea, and we
Yep, you
just
will
get
find them at whale falls.
did we just get another 10 seconds of shark fans?
I think we did, yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Uh,
As long as they keep
Unfortunately,
watching.
yeah, it's good for the engagement. Like you shark fans, like you want the shark content, like keep watching, like good for
Yeah,
engagement.
give us a thumbs up, drop a comment right now. Tell us you're a shark fan. We'll keep putting shark cracks in for you.
I'll tell you what, if if during 2026 we get 10 comments on any video saying that someone is a shark fan, even if it's the same person, I'll make sure to include some kind of shark story in every remaining podcast of that year. If we get 10 comments from people saying they're shark fans,
Sounds reasonable.
that's a promise that I will have to adhere to. I need to change my thing of like how I find articles, because I need to add sharks. I actually did see a shark thing recently. How many whale sharks though? Yeah, but they're only half sharks. They're half whale. Okay, so I don't know if you've got anything more to add on to the educate me, Joe.
Nah, I don't think so.
So I want to also say in regards to Orcawatch, particularly our Orca of the month, um, I'm gonna link in chat as well. There was a podcast that I used quite extensively for some of my research into Indy. You get some amazing information about Indy here. Like they do a full podcast about it. I'm going to link them here. And I'm also going to put them in the description as well. But yeah, ever play the shark game Depth? I'd love to see you both play it.
I have not.
I have not either. Do we put on our list here?
For February, yeah.
Maybe. Play as a
Yeah.
shark or a diver in a dark aquatic world. Overcome your enemies by employing cunning, teamwork, and stealth. Depth blends tension and visceral action as you team up against AI or be matched by other players in heart-pounding combat. We'll have to have
And
a
at
look at
that
that.
point, okay, I got another goal for you that you could put on.
Oh,
That you put
goal or
no,
prediction?
no, goal in February for our
Okay.
next play Echo the Dolphin.
It might not be February, but I will one day play that. I will one
Yeah, but
day
you can
play
make it a goal.
I will. I'll make it a goal for a charity thing.
Yeah, well, maybe for Orcatober then.
Orcatober, we could even do it for World Ocean Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Echo the Dolphin 2026, I am playing it. Don't know when, I'm playing it. So, also, I just realized I've had pre-recorded segment above my head like for so long. I've been really, really good at reacting to people in my pre-recorded segment. Apparently, that is an outtake and a half.
Yeah, you'll just have to cover it up. You'll just have to cover it up in the edit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good at that. It's just editing it out. So I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank Geofits for joining me as co-host, as ever.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm gonna just quickly look for my there we are. That's the command. Podcast end. Okay. Screen cap your back wall and put an image over it so there's no line.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy one to cover up since like you don't extend up into where it is.
Boy,
To edit out the pre-recorded.
I could actually.
Yeah, that's the easy way. Is you just cut out you cut out a clean bit and then you just cover over it.
To be fair, when I upload this to YouTube and Spotify, technically it's pre-recorded.
That is fair.
Yeah, technically it's pre-recorded because we just recorded it now.
Well, then you should cut the pre-recorded thing and you should paste that on top of the whole video.
Oh no! I thought I'm like I hope no one comes up with that. Okay, this has been a fantastic podcast. This just got really complicated. I know. I'm gonna do my command. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Geofits, for joining me.
We'll see you next month.
See you next month.